Welcome to r/payback. Hey Reddit. I never thought I'd be posting here, but I honestly don't know what else to do. Something's been eating at me for days, and I need to get this off my chest. I think my girlfriend did something to my pet snake. I know how that sounds. Believe me. It sounds insane even typing it out, like something you'd see in one of those over-the-top posts people argue about in the comments. But I swear, this isn't fake. I'm not trolling. This is my real life right now, and I feel like I'm slowly losing my mind. I haven't confronted her fully yet because part of me doesn't want to believe it's true. But there are too many red flags to ignore. And the worst part? This isn't just some random pet. This snake has been with me through everything, and now he's just gone. His name is Orion. I've had him since I was 14. He's a ball python, super chill, slow-moving, never aggressive. The kind of snake that just curls up in your lap and naps. He was a birthday gift from my uncle, who used to breed reptiles. Honestly, I didn't even know how much he'd come to mean to me until years passed and he was still there, quiet, peaceful, and dependable, no matter what else in life changed. Through high school heartbreaks, college stress, moving out for the first time, Orion was always there. I used to joke that he was the most stable relationship in my life. Then I met Lila. We hit it off right away. She's fun, smart, artistic. She paints, actually. Really into energy and vibes, crystals, that sort of thing. At first I thought our differences balanced us out. Where I was more logical, she was more emotional and intuitive. But there was one thing we never fully agreed on. Orion. The first time she came to my apartment, she literally froze in the doorway when she saw his tank. "That's a real snake?" she said, backing up. "Like, a live one?" I laughed it off. Thought she was just surprised. I told her he was completely harmless, basically a reptilian cat. She didn't laugh. She didn't even come near the tank. Over the next few months, anytime she came over, she'd avoid that entire corner of the living room. It became a running joke between us, or so I thought. I figured she'd warm up to him eventually. People are weird about snakes at first, but once they realize they're not slimy or dangerous, they usually change their minds. Lila didn't. If anything, her discomfort started turning into something more. At first, it was just offhand comments. "I don't know how you sleep with that thing in the same room." Or, "He's watching me, I swear." I'd chuckle and remind her snakes don't even have eyelids. Then it got more serious. One night, we were watching a movie and she suddenly muted the TV and looked at me dead serious. "Do you ever think maybe it's bringing in, like, bad energy? I just feel uncomfortable around it. Like it's evil." I was honestly shocked. Evil? Orion? He hadn't moved from his warm rock in hours. I told her again, "He's just a snake. He doesn't even know we exist half the time." She shook her head. "It's spiritual. I just feel it. Snakes are symbols of deception. In almost every religion, they're bad. Doesn't that bother you?" I tried not to get defensive, but I told her that wasn't how I saw it. Orion wasn't a symbol. He was my pet, my friend. He'd never hurt a soul. But it didn't stop. She started bringing over incense and sage, saying she was cleansing the space. She asked me more than once, seriously, if I'd consider releasing him somewhere. Once, when I said no, she snapped, "You're choosing a snake over my peace of mind." That hit me hard. I tried compromising. I moved his tank into the second bedroom. I even added blackout cloth over it so she wouldn't have to see it when the door was open. But nothing made her happy. If anything, she became colder toward me afterward. She'd side-eye his room every time she walked by. She even said, "I don't feel safe sleeping here sometimes." And I should have seen the writing on the wall right then. But I didn't. I thought she'd come around eventually. A few months ago, Lila and I decided to move in together. It felt like the natural next step. We'd been dating for over a year, and I figured sharing a place would make our lives easier. Rent was cheaper together, and I genuinely thought we were ready. But the moment Orion's tank came through the door, the mood changed. "I thought maybe we'd leave that at your old place," she said, half joking, or pretending to be. I reminded her we'd talked about this. Orion was part of the deal. I even offered to keep him in the laundry room so he wouldn't be in any common spaces. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Right, of course. Your spirit animal." The passive-aggressive remarks became more frequent. "It smells like lizard in here." I had a nightmare again. Guess what was in it? No offense, but he creeps me out. I just can't relax when he's around. Eventually, it turned into open resentment. One night, we got into a small fight about dishes, and out of nowhere she shouted, "Why don't you marry the snake if you love him so much?" I was stunned. That argument had nothing to do with Orion. She'd also started talking more about energetic balance in the house, telling me the snake was disrupting her aura, her dreams, her sleep. At one point, she straight up said, "If you really cared about me, you'd understand why this is a problem." I tried explaining again how much Orion meant to me, that he wasn't just a pet, he was family. Something constant I've had for over a decade. She went silent and stared at me coldly. "Sometimes I think you care more about that thing than me." I laughed nervously. She didn't. It was a Thursday. I'll never forget it. I came home from work and immediately noticed something was off. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Lila wasn't in the living room like she usually was. The laundry room door was ajar, which was strange, since we always kept it shut to keep the temperature stable for Orion. And that's when I saw it. The tank was open. The top screen was pushed back slightly, just enough for something to get out. Or be taken out. My stomach dropped. Orion wasn't in his tank. His heating pad was still warm, water full, bedding clean. But no Orion, no signs of shedskin, no signs of struggle. Just gone. I tore through the entire apartment. Under couches, behind bookshelves, inside drawers, even under the refrigerator. I called his name like an idiot, even though I knew he wouldn't respond. After 30 minutes, I texted Lila. "Me. Have you seen Orion? His tank is open, and he's gone." She replied 10 minutes later. Lila. "Maybe he escaped." "I don't know, he was still there when I left." That was it. No panic, no concern, just a vague maybe. I called her. She didn't pick up. I texted again, this time more urgently, and she finally called back. "I don't know what to tell you," she said flatly. "Maybe he slipped out somehow." "He can't," I said. "You know that. His enclosure locks. He's never gotten out in over 10 years. She shrugged over the phone. "Maybe it was a freak accident. Animals escape all the time." But something about her tone, the lack of shock, the calmness, didn't sit right with me. My gut was screaming. Something wasn't right. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking of all the reasons Orion couldn't have escaped. His tank was a heavy glass enclosure with a latch on top, not something that just comes loose. I always double-checked it, always, especially knowing how Lila felt about him. And even if, somehow, it did open, how would he get out of the laundry room? The door stays shut. The gap under it is barely half an inch. And even if he got out of that room, how would he get through the front door or anywhere outside? It didn't make sense. I brought this up to Lila the next morning. Her reaction? A shrug. "You're overthinking it," she said. "Why would I do anything to your snake? That's such a crazy thing to accuse me of." But I hadn't accused her. not directly, which made her defensiveness even more jarring. Later that day, while I was pulling furniture away from the walls, still searching, she sat on the couch, scrolling her phone, looking bored. "Maybe this is a sign," she said. "Maybe the universe is telling you it's time to let go." That's when something clicked. Not just a suspicion, a certainty, small and quiet but growing fast. She knew something, and the worst part was, she wasn't even trying that hard to hide it. For the next 2 days, I was caught in a fog of confusion and guilt. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to point a finger and say, "I know you did something." But what if I was wrong? What if this was just grief talking? Orion wasn't just a pet. He was part of my identity for over a decade. Maybe I was so desperate to make sense of his disappearance that I was looking for someone to blame. But deep down, I knew. Lila had never cared about him. She never tried. She never respected how much he meant to me. And now that he was gone, she was the only person who didn't seem remotely affected. Still, I held back. I kept telling myself I needed proof. Otherwise, I'd just sound like a paranoid boyfriend accusing his girlfriend of doing something unthinkable. I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to damage our relationship over a suspicion, no matter how strong it felt. But every time I saw her, scrolling on her phone, humming in the kitchen like nothing had happened, something inside me twisted. I kept thinking, if the roles were reversed, I'd be helping her tear this place apart. I'd be devastated. But she wasn't. And eventually, I realized something even worse than the thought that she might have done it. She wasn't sorry. On the third night, it all unraveled. We were in the kitchen. I was quietly making dinner while she sat on the counter, talking about some dream she'd had. Something about ocean waves and butterflies. I wasn't really listening. I was too tired to pretend anymore. Then, out of nowhere, she stopped mid-sentence and asked, "Are you still upset about the snake?" I looked up, slowly. "Of course I am." She looked away. "You've been cold lately." I didn't answer. I just stared. And something in my silence must have triggered her, because her voice started to shake. "You don't understand how heavy it felt. Having that thing in the house. The energy was all wrong. I couldn't sleep. I felt watched all the time, like I couldn't breathe." My hands froze on the cutting board. She kept going. I know you loved it. I know, but I couldn't take it anymore. I snapped. I didn't plan it. I just did it." I looked up at her. Her eyes were wet. "I drove him to the lake. I let him go near the woods. I thought he'd slither away, be free or something. Reptiles survive in the wild, right?" I didn't say anything. Couldn't. She took a deep breath, like she was trying to center herself. "I just wanted peace in the house. The vibes were so heavy with him here. I thought you'd be mad, but maybe you'd feel better after. Like, lighter." Then she added, like a solution, "We can get a gecko or something. They're cute, normal." I didn't say a word. I just stood there, hands still on the counter, knife halfway through a bell pepper. My heart was racing, but everything else felt numb, hollow. She looked at me like she expected a thank you or forgiveness. I walked away, grabbed my keys, my wallet, and left the apartment without another word. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove, around the block, through town, past the gas station where I used to buy feeder mice for Orion when he was younger. I kept thinking about that, how I'd once planned an entire road trip around bringing Orion with me because I didn't want him to be alone. Now he was alone, lost in some unfamiliar forest or field, confused and exposed. He wasn't a wild animal. He couldn't survive out there. I parked in an empty lot and just sat in the car, hands on the steering wheel, shaking. The person I trusted, someone I lived with, shared a life with, had taken something I loved and disposed of it like clutter. And the worst part? She didn't even seem to understand what she'd done. She called it a vibe shift. I called it a betrayal. I couldn't sit still after she confessed. She said she left him near a lake, some spot she'd driven past on the way to work a few times. I made her drop a pin on the map. As soon as she did, I grabbed my keys and left. I didn't even think to change shoes. It was already getting dark when I got there. The lake was quiet, ringed with trees and rough trails. I parked at the edge and started walking, calling his name like he could actually answer me. "Jasper, here, buddy." Every rustling leaf made my heart jump. I scanned the brush, crouched to check under logs, dug through piles of fallen leaves and damp grass. I looked for that familiar flash of golden brown scales, his gentle eyes. I kept thinking, maybe he was hiding, maybe he was cold, maybe he was just scared and waiting. I had a flashlight, but it didn't help much once the sun dipped. Still, I kept looking, over and over. My hands got cut on branches, my jeans were soaked from kneeling in wet grass. I knew deep down he probably wasn't out there anymore, but I wasn't ready to accept it. The moon came up. The woods got quiet. I finally had to stop. I sat on a flat rock near the shore, cold and aching, and just stared at the water. I'd brought a shoebox just in case, a ridiculous, hopeful gesture. Eventually, I made it back to my car and sat there for a long time before heading home. But I didn't go in. I planned to return at sunrise. I barely slept, just enough to keep me from collapsing. Before the sun was up, I packed gloves, a flashlight, and an old towel. I didn't ask anyone to come with me. But my buddy Ryan texted at 6 a.m. asking if I was okay. I told him the truth. He met me there within the hour. The woods looked different in the morning. The light cut through the branches like needles, and dew sparkled on the grass. It was quiet again. Too quiet. We split up. Ryan followed a trail while I walked along the lakeside, retracing my steps from the night before. I almost missed him. He was tucked under a low bush, barely visible through the brush. The curve of his body looked unnatural. I pushed branches aside, hoping, irrationally, that he was just curled up asleep. He wasn't. His scales were torn in several places, deep bite marks along his midsection. It was obvious some wild animal had gotten to him, maybe a raccoon or a bird of prey. There were signs of a short struggle, a trail of disturbed leaves, blood that had dried dark against the dirt. I froze. My legs gave out and I dropped to my knees. The guilt hit harder than I thought it would. I should have found him sooner. I should have protected him. Ryan helped me wrap him gently in the towel. Neither of us spoke for a long time. We buried Jasper under a tall tree by the lake. I placed a smooth stone over the spot. It wasn't much, but it was something. He didn't deserve to die like that, alone, terrified, and it didn't have to happen. I walked into the apartment just after noon. Lila was curled on the couch in one of my old sweatshirts, phone in hand. She looked up when the door clicked shut. "Did you find him?" she asked softly. I didn't answer. She sat up, her voice breaking a little. "Was he okay?" Again, I said nothing. I walked into the kitchen, washed my hands. I could still feel the dirt under my nails from burying him. She followed, standing in the doorway. "I didn't mean for it to—" I raised a hand. She stopped talking. "We had lunch, or something like it. I don't remember what. Leftovers, maybe." We sat at opposite ends of the table. No eye contact, no conversation. The silence was heavy, not peaceful. The kind that fills your ears with pressure, like something was going to break. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just couldn't feel anything at all. She watched me carefully, as if waiting for me to say what she wanted to hear. But I had nothing left to give her. In that moment, we weren't a couple. We were two strangers in the same space, sitting on opposite sides of something we couldn't fix. The grief hadn't even fully hit me yet, but I knew one thing for certain. Things could never go back to how they were. That evening, I asked her to sit down. No shouting, no accusations, just quiet, steady words. My voice felt too tired to rise, and honestly, there was no more energy left for anger. I know what you did. You released Jasper, and because of that, he's dead. She opened her mouth, maybe to deny it again, but stopped. Her eyes welled up. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I thought he'd slither off into the woods and, I don't know, live free. I didn't react. I just kept talking. You knew he couldn't survive out there. You knew he was raised in a tank, that he depended on me, and you made that decision anyway, not just behind my back, but without any concern for what it would do to me. I panicked, she said softly. The move, the stress, I was overwhelmed. I just wanted peace in the house. You don't get peace by destroying someone else's. She started crying, real, messy tears. But they didn't move me, because this wasn't just about a snake. This was about betrayal, about being ignored, about someone deciding that what they wanted mattered more than what we built together. And I finally realized she never really accepted the parts of me she didn't understand. I can't stay here, I said finally. I think part of her believed this would all blow over, that I'd cool off, sleep it off, and we'd find a way back to normal. But this wasn't a rough patch. This was the end. I've got a place to crash, just for now. I'll send you the details about the lease transfer once I figure it out. She stepped toward me, reaching out like she might touch my arm. I stepped back. You don't have to do this, please, she said, her voice cracking. I made a mistake, a really bad one, but we can fix this. No, I replied. We can't, because I can't unsee what this means. She didn't argue after that. She just stood there, watching as I grabbed a duffel and started filling it. A hoodie, my chargers, documents from the drawer. It didn't take long. I'd packed in my head a dozen times before I ever did it for real. Every movement felt final, heavy, but clear. Yes, I was heartbroken, but beneath the sadness was a strange calm. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't torn. I knew I had to leave. For me. For Jasper. For the version of myself I'd nearly lost trying to keep someone else comfortable. Somewhere between the betrayal and the silence that followed, I remembered my worth. Hey everyone. Just wanted to close the loop on my last post. I've officially moved out. I'm staying with a close friend who's been incredibly supportive. The apartment's quiet, and it still hurts when I think about what happened. But there's also relief, like I'm finally breathing again, working on getting my name off the lease and utilities, one step at a time. Losing. Jasper broke something in me. He was with me for over a decade. He didn't just disappear, he was taken. By someone I trusted. That's the part that lingers the most, the betrayal. If anyone reading this is in a relationship where your boundaries, values, or emotional needs are constantly stepped on, even in small, subtle ways, please pay attention. It doesn't start with something massive. It starts with a sigh, a roll of the eyes, a dismissive joke, and then it grows. Love shouldn't feel like a fight to preserve your peace. Take care of yourselves and your animals. That wraps up today's episode of r/payback. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to subscribe for more epic stories.